Generally Famous, proudly brought to you by Oppo's first flip phone, the Find N2 Flip. Generally famous for looking great and folding small to fit anywhere. Kia ora, Aotearoa, and welcome to Generally Famous. I'm Simon Bridges, and every week I talk generally famous but always interesting guests about life, love, and what makes them tick. Today on Generally Famous, we have an absolute treat in having Samoan-born Kiwi actress Teuila Blakely. Welcome.
Hello.
It is so good to have you on. I feel like I know you somehow.
I feel the same way about you, truly.
Yeah.
Truly.
Yeah, it's I don't know what that is. You have now you have been, I've got my list, you've been on Shortland Street, Outrageous Fortune, Sione's Wedding ×2, Filthy Rich, Power Rangers, Brotown, Duck Rockers, the Sione Weddings TV prequel, which is what Duck Rockers is, and you've been, I don't want to say veteran because it makes you sound old and you're not, but you've been a pioneer of radio, Flavour New FM and others as well, Dancing with the Stars and much more. But I actually will get to that because there's a lot in that. But I want to start at, I suppose, the beginning, and that's growing up. And, I don't know if we say white anymore, but your dad was white, let's say that. Yes. Your mum, Samoan.
Yes.
You are, I got this right, I'm just see if my homework is right, 4th of 5th children.
Yes.
And your folks, this is the best bit of all of that, ran a takeaway shop in Tauranga until you were like 8.
Absolutely. You have done your research, Simon.
Yeah, it's good. Wikipedia is a fine thing. No, so, and of all of that, as I say, the question that is that is burning is, what is it like growing up as a takeaway shop kid?
Great question, because, it is a thing. If you're a shop kid and other shop kids relate to this, that's your environment, a shop. So I grew up very young. Mum and Dad actually had 2 takeaway shops in Tauranga, and I spent my time going from one to the other, riding my trike around the vats in the little courtyard at the back, sleeping in the back rooms. It's not a very interesting environment for children. No. But what I learnt is, because I'm a young child watching all these adult customers come in and out, so observing adults became my pastime.
Yes.
Which I think was a really interesting way to grow up as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like mundane, but there's all these, there are these crazy critters coming into your shop.
And that interact with me.
I'll have 3 potato fritters, a hamburger, and the tirakihi.
I don't know the exact fish we used, but I know that my dad, he was a fantastic cook. So was Mum, but Dad was quite renowned for the quality of his takeaways, and we did really well business-wise in
Can you remember what it was called? The
Kebab in Cameron Road and the Chippewa in Greaton.
Oh, he's a significant businessman.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, considering he came from a 5th-generation Central Otago farming family.
He's a long way from Otago.
Truly, a long way from the farm.
This is not remotely but how did your mum and dad meet?
Well, Mum actually comes from a big German Samoan family in Samoa.
Right.
And they've got a big estate and a lot of, we've got a plantation there and things like that too. So my grandfather had 7 daughters, and Mum was one of them, and he felt that the best thing he could do for his daughters was send them to New Zealand to be educated. And so that's what happened. But then, and then the second half of our family were educated in the United States. And then what happened is they ended up staying. My mum, she came, they just ended up having their lives here. And Dad wanted to get out of the farming life because generationally that's all they'd done. So he just wanted to see what the big wide world was like, and he thought he'd come north to Auckland to work. Mum was sent here to go to nursing school, and they met. And the rest was history. As
they say.
Yeah.
And what I got, from my extensive Wikipedia, Google research on you, is your mother was, my sense she quite, which is, often true of new migrants and ambitious for you. And I don't mean that, I think that's a great thing. And did you get ambition from sitting there on the crates at the takeaway store thinking, I don't want to be a takeaway shop worker when I'm 25?
Absolutely. And also, and that was a big part of it, Simon, my mother was a very ambitious woman, and I think, you know, she would have loved to have gone further with her education, and she always wanted to get into law and or politics. So that's what she had mapped out for me. So I was drilled my entire life. Education, education, education. I had to perform at like straight A's.
Yeah.
There was nothing less was accepted by my mum. And the thing is, I learnt a lot from being raised that way.
Yeah, I really identify with a lot of your story, and we'll come to some of that. Like that's so my, you know, I'd never met her, she passed before but my grandma was Naku Joseph, Māori from the King Country, and, you know, there's that same thing, and she wanted all of that for, you know, my dad, and my dad wanted it from me. You know, he was obsessed with me being a lawyer.
Yes.
I had an older brother who was a lawyer and the politics, but unlike you, I got the memo and I followed through.
You sure
I mean,
did.
I've gone a bit off script in the last wee while, but you sort of went off script, and we'll come to that. Ooh. So, because I do want to, I told you that like 53% of this chat is going to be about the takeaways, and so I just want to keep going with that for just a bit longer. Did you learn? Have you got? I know you left that life at 8. You got takeaway skills?
I do. I make
a good burger.
Oh my goodness!
Still deep fry?
Yeah. Oh, I don't tend to deep fry so much, but I can make a mean burger to this day. It's my thing.
Is that right? What would it have in it?
I like a good meat patty. Obviously, I've got my own way of making them, but it's just your standard sauce, mustard, onion, pickle, lettuce, cheese, egg, beetroot.
Oh, good. Yeah, the last two were the ones I was going to say no egg. So your Kiwi burger has to have an egg, and it actually has to have beetroot. My wife, who's from the UK, finds this very... she can't sort of... I've got her more into... Actually, the things it's surprising the things that we do in New Zealand that people don't... The beetroot, we like a bit... I like beetroot. Most meals are better with beetroot,
Absolutely.
I find. And the other one is pumpkin. They sort of don't do pumpkin, whereas I like a good roasted pumpkin or kumara or something like that. That's got nothing to do with burgers, by the way. I don't put them into burgers.
No, that'll
I'm
be
just
good.
saying as a... so... Like if your glittering career doesn't work out and I'm down at sort of midnight at the White Lady on Fort Street, that, you know, you would still have the skills for that.
I would. And, you know, the thing is, I often think about what I do as an alternative career, because what I do is the only thing I've ever done. So I'm quite low on skills outside of
I know that feeling.
this.
Yeah.
And I do. I think, well, what can I do? I can make burgers and I can clean a mean house. So I'd either be a takeaway proprietor, a food truck owner, or a cleaner.
I feel like the takeaway proprietor, well, they're all hard work actually.
They are.
But it's, and like, let's say if you were, you know, people get triggered if I say you were about to die, so we won't say that. If you things are about to go badly for you and you've got your last meal and it's from a takeaway shop, what are you having? So I just say I would just say last meal so that you don't need to worry about the calories.
Yeah, totally.
If you're me, you don't need to worry about the
cheeseburger.
cholesterol. You'd go cheeseburger.
Cheeseburger and chips, yep. Standard, proven. Like, that would be my last takeaway meal.
Yeah, I love a burger.
Me too.
I really love it. We live next to in Te Atatu. Tat North as it was back then, Te Atatu Peninsula on Gloria Avenue. We lived opposite the Golden Eagle takeaways, and every Friday we would, but we didn't have the fish because the fish was too expensive actually. So we just basically got the chips and Mum did the rest. But anyway, that's sort of that. So we were, and your mother was also. I always say this because I don't want you to. I'm not going to overly psychoanalyse you, but your mother was a disciplinarian. That's my sense of it. She's quite hard,
absolutely
hard ass, if I can put it that way.
Absolutely.
Effective that on you? Do you think now? I mean, did that sort of drive you? Look, if I'm going to be an actor and I'm not going to be a lawyer, I need to make damn sure I'm going to be a good one, and she'll see me in the movies.
I just feel like you know me so well.
Yeah, same sort of upbringing. There's a lot going on there. Yeah.
And that was the thing, because she just did not want to know about these dreams that I had to be a movie actress or anything. She was completely against it. And so I knew if I was going to go down this road, I had to unequivocally succeed.
Make it work.
And there was just no other option. And I think, you know, that the way that Mum raised me, this is why I've been able to do what I do, I believe.
Yeah, and because because I don't want it just to be about takeaways and growing up, but we will move on. But there's a couple of things that really struck me, and as I say, I'd certainly identify with them in different ways. But one is that, to state the bleedingly obvious, you're brown. And
yes.
you grew up in Tauranga, and I could do Tauranga as a sort of a mastermind topic.
I love that.
If there was such a thing. 40 or so years ago, let's say. You're like one of about 7 Samoan kids in Tauranga at this point in time.
Truly.
So what's that like?
That was interesting.
But I mean, you were young, so do you, in all seriousness, do you remember that? Or is
I do, because... you learn about things like racism and prejudice, and, you're not born with the awareness of these things. And, I mean, as a child, I had a white dad and a brown mum. That completely made sense to me. I wasn't so aware that I was brown until I noticed that people would treat us differently if we were with mum, and they would be completely different with dad. And then I started thinking, wow, there's some kind of difference here. So I learnt about the differences, and growing up in a place like Tauranga, you're not wrong. We literally were about one of 7 Samoans in the entire city for my entire childhood. So you learnt you were different, and some people could really show their opinions negatively on that.
Yes.
So I became very aware that was a thing. And it was really interesting, Simon, I have to tell you, when we came to Auckland, and it was the first time in my entire life I'd seen groups of brown people and groups of other brown children, and I was just like, oh my goodness, we're all friends. I just love you all. That was not the way they reacted.
No.
They were just like, you're weird.
And is that because you were actually, and I'm going to put it sort of bluntly, but... in Tauranga, you were growing up a white kid, and then you're a white kid who's brown, and then you get to the big bad West, the wild West, and you're sort of learning to be a brown kid who's brown.
Oh my God, Simon, it's like you were, sitting there watching this whole thing unfold. That was exactly right. We dressed differently, we were very much kids.
Were you a nerd?
Yeah, big time.
Because I've got your piano, reading, writing.
Yes, I was that kid. I didn't realise how strange I was as a brown child until I came to Auckland. And absolutely, brown kids just didn't know what to make of me. So it was a very difficult time. And especially in the 80s and the 90s, it wasn't cool to be smart. It wasn't cool to be talented. It wasn't cool to be all the things that are really good now. Yeah. So that was difficult. I got bullied ruthlessly.
And it's a big word, but we'll just use it and move on. In Tauranga, I mean, going back to, did you experience racism, do you think?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Right.
Definitely. And I think it was more observing mum experience racism. And then, as a child, you sort of just take those things on because they're quite traumatic when you see things like that happening to a parent. And then you sort of started becoming hyper aware of, how you look and that you're brown. And like I said, people have very real ideas about that. I mean, still to this day. But, obviously, as you grow older, you get an understanding of it. But it's quite traumatic as a child.
Do you think, how do you think about your ethnicity today?
Oh, great question. I feel very much Samoan because, as you say, I'm brown. So even though I've got a white dad, I've lived as a brown woman. Although in Tauranga we had such a, as you say, a white environment and education and things like that, Mum was very, very much very proud and very connected to her culture. So at home, we've always had a very deep understanding that we are Samoan.
Did that dominate, would you say, at home?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah. Mum dominated.
Yeah. In a funny sort of way. I mean, that's what I sort of... Right, yeah, I get that. I'm getting that picture. Okay.
Meghan and Harry?
Yeah.
Okay.
We were talking off here just about Meghan and Harry, and there's something like that there too, right? It's and mixed marriage, and all of those good things. I thought that would be the case in my, as I say, I've done my due diligence, that you would, your Samoan heritage, whakapapa, would. Do you think your Pākehā heritage is missed out, or doesn't matter?
No, I think that because Dad also obviously had a significant impact on my life, and I was a daddy's girl growing up,
Right.
so I spent.
There's nothing wrong with that.
I know.
My youngest daughter, my only daughter, turned 5 yesterday.
See, and there is nothing wrong with that.
Unlike
I think it's
my boy,
amazing.
she can have anything.
See, that's difficult. That's difficult for the boy, but great for your daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like that with my dad. He adored me. I adore him, and he's still here today, and we've got an amazing relationship. And although,
he's back in New Zealand because he was living in Samoa, I think.
Oh, just Mum?
Right. That's okay, don't worry.
No, because, that's what I'm saying. Like, if
She
Mum
wanted to be there.
Well, I love, I grew up in a very unique sort of household in terms of Mum being quite a forward-thinking, independent woman.
Quite modern in her way.
Very. So Mum just wanted to move back to Samoa at some point, and she did.
Yeah.
But they were still together.
Yeah.
And people used to go, are your parents divorced? I go, oh, no, Mum just lives in Samoa. It was,
There's like life, there's all, as we know,
Totally.
there's all sorts of things in relationships and ways, which, by the way, I don't even know if I was going to go there, but I am, because the notes told me this, and I am fascinated by it, and I feel like it's a convenient time. You live with Oscar Kitely, am I right? And he was your boyfriend / fiancé, and like now we're saying, I'm taking it, there's none of that is funny business?
No, God, no. So
You're like old pals.
We are.
But are you creative partners?
We are.
Right.
We are. So we have a very equally interesting relationship. Yes, we at one time were together, and at one time we were engaged, and then we weren't. And that was difficult. But the thing with Oscar and I is we always had an incredible friendship element to our relationship.
Wonderful.
And that continued after the fact. And he is my closest confidant, and everything that, he's my guy in that respect.
Just separate parts of the house? Or what's going on here?
We live 5 houses down from each other.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, we did.
Like.
We did live together for a while because I was renovating.
Right.
And now I'm living 5 doors down from him.
Well, that's about to me, that's the perfect distance for a mother-in-law, right? Is it 5, actually probably 5 streets, if I'm honest. But it's good because close enough for babysitting.
Absolutely.
But not close enough to be watching TV and Meghan and Harry with you on the couch next to you while they're doing Sudoku, even though they were angry because you started it before they got there. But they don't even really want to watch it, and then they go to sleep halfway through. Anyway, hypothetically speaking. And the other thing that I find, I come from a very religious household, very religious. My father's Baptist minister at Te Atu Baptist, actually.
Oh my gosh, great church.
And so, your mum, not my mum, your mum's Mormon, your dad was Catholic, and they were both staunch about that.
Oh,
and so
yes.
I've got a quote here from you. Quote, so there was a great deal of disharmony over religion in our home.
Oh, yes.
Tell me more.
Yeah. Well, Mormonism, it's a big thing. It's not just, turning up to church every Sunday. Mormonism is a way of life.
Yes. Culturally as well as spiritually and all of that, yes.
It is your life. Your religion is your life. And so Mum, being the dominant partner, decided that all the children would be Mormon despite Dad's staunch Catholic. Like, he is such a staunch Catholic. Yeah, even today, he still goes to Mass.
Right.
Mum, right up until her death, went to the temple. Yeah.
Was there one in Tauranga then?
Yes. On Cameron Road.
Yeah, well, still there.
Yeah.
Probably it's bigger and better now, but yes, I've been there, actually,
Yes.
as local member of Parliament once upon a time. So you went to the Church of the Latter-day Saints in Tauranga?
Yes.
And did you ever go into the Catholic Church? Or?
I only went once or twice with Dad. What I liked about Catholic Church is it was 1 hour as opposed to 3.
Yes.
So
yeah,
our
they're
service-
short and sharp, aren't they?
Oh, yeah, straight to the point. I loved that. But my mum's entire family are Mormon, and they didn't feel comfortable with any of us ever not going to only Mormon church. So only visited once or twice with Dad, yeah.
Right. Did he come to the Mormon church?
Reluctantly, if Mum made him, yeah.
Right. And so I suppose the point of all of this is, so as you say, they both got Jesus there, but they're very different. This must be, you've already said source of tension is confusing for you, or not really because Mum won?
Yeah, I think I was confused as a young person because of the fact that the religions were so different. And as you say, they both had Jesus. Mum and Dad were both devoted to their religions, but they were completely opposing. And I actually think having parents from two different cultures, from two different backgrounds, from two different religions actually taught me a lot about life, that it's really okay just to be what you are, and you don't have to expect anyone else to be the same as you. My parents had a marriage of polar opposites, and I think
keeps it interesting, though.
It does, and it teaches you understanding.
Yeah.
So I think in all, it's been a real advantage.
Yes. Do you, does religion, faith mean anything much to you now, or you sort of, no?
I wouldn't say that I have a faith that I, practice.
Yes.
I have a general faith,
Yes.
a general understanding, but I wouldn't say I know what that is. And I think that also comes from having two religions. That,
yes.
Yeah, it's like, well...
Yeah.
Yeah, but I definitely have a faith and a belief in a higher power, but there's nothing structural around that.
At 8, you're off to West Auckland. So as I say, don't worry. It's everyone else there is like, Simon, move on, all right? But I'm interested in this because I went from West Auckland to Tauranga, and you sort of like I feel like we're mirror. And by the way, Oscar Kitely, who we've talked about, he lived on the same street when we first went there, Kerville Avenue, Te Aratu, and my older brothers and sisters sort of knew him because, I don't know, down the road and all of that. But they're very different culturally, West and Tauranga. We were sort of discussed that. But so, and you've already told culture shock.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my goodness.
Did you, did you have trouble making friends?
Oh, absolutely. As I said, like, they thought I was like Anne of Green Gables or something.
Yes. I can see that.
Yeah.
I can see that. The pigtails and the...
Totally.
It's very cute, though.
It wasn't helping.
Just not cool.
Just not cool. And I remember walking to school with my cousin who went to the primary school that I started at, Glendine Primary. And I was dressed for school how I would normally dress. And she was like looking at me going, honestly, no one dresses like that here. And I was like, oh, it's all right. And then I got to school and it was not all right. And I think the way I arrived at school that day, that was my experience then till the end of Standard 4.
What high school did you go to?
Waitakere.
Right.
Yeah, so you were at Rutherford.
Right. Rutherford was better, but that's. I mean, it wasn't Henderson. Let's be honest, because Henderson was terrible.
It is the worst.
Did you ultimately, though, despite the culture shock, become a Westie?
Oh yeah.
So are you a Westie, not in a where you live sense, but are you in dispositionally, and because I'm a Westie.
Oh, totally. I'm a total Westie.
Always annoyed me because Paula Bennett would be like, the people she's the Westie. It's like, what a joke. She grew up in Taupo. She's a Taupo kid. Yeah, I'm the Westie, right? I'm the one who got beaten up on the mean streets of West Auckland, not her.
Yes, we got bullied in the mean streets of West Auckland, Simon. We know that life. Yeah. We're about that life.
People think I'm some tough, born to rule. Hey, I've had the shirt ripped from my back.
Absolutely. Rutherford High, man. You know what they call them? Ruther thugs. Ruther thugs.
That's all coming out,
Yes.
No, that's, yes. No,
well, Paula's living out now. She's out there in Te Aratu Peninsula where I am.
Oh, she is.
She is. She's moved out there now.
Yeah. And it's a gentrified suburb.
Oh, my goodness, is it what?
Okay, so you are a Westie.
Yes.
And the other thing, you've painted this, goody two-shoes picture. Then at 17, you're pregnant.
Yeah.
And, tell me about that. Were you Were you stereotyped?
Yeah, big time, big time. So that was me trying to rebel against, I had zero freedom. And I think that is actually a really bad thing. You have to give kids a little bit of leeway. I had none, absolutely none. So then I found myself...
Were you a bit naive?
Oh, completely.
Sort of
because of
played
the
into
fact.
it all? Yeah.
Totally. And so when my Westie girlfriends were doing things that were completely normal to them, I was trying to join and go, oh yeah, I can do this too, but I had no clue or awareness or understanding what I was doing. So then, yes, actually at 16, I find out I'm pregnant.
Right.
But here's the thing. I was still a great student. I still did everything. I was sixth form representative, shoo-in for head girl, seventh form. And then it just all changed. And for the first time in my life, I became a stereotype and I was treated so differently to my entire experience of life up until that point.
How did you, because you obviously in the end didn't, well not in the end, you didn't fit the stereotype, you still had the ambition that your mother had imbued in you, instilled in you and all of that. But it must have been tough.
Oh, it was horrendous, because that was the first time I felt like, and it sounds strange, because when you're a pregnant 16-year-old in West Auckland, that was the first time that I felt really judged as a brown person, because then no one saw me as who I was. They just saw me as a statistic and treated me as such. Because I had to leave home and find employment, out of high school, I just got really menial jobs just to get by, and it was amazing how people were treating me in comparison to when I was like this top A student. People just thought, what, Teuila is going to be successful, guaranteed. And then from great heights. Yeah.
And because, I've harped on about your mother 19 times in this chat. One suspects she wouldn't have been too pleased about the state of affairs. I mean, did that affect your relationship in a...
Hugely. So we spent a few good years estranged. Obviously, the pregnancy and that was the catalyst, but then Mum living in Samoa kind of just left it that way. And it took a while till we sort of really came to an understanding of where we were at in life. And to be honest, me succeeding in what I wanted to do had a great deal to do with that.
And on that, today you're a generally famous, highly regarded actor. I would say actress, but we meant to say actor.
I love actress. I love saying actress.
Actor. Your parents must be proud of you. Your father's, still with us, but they both your mother would have been very proud of you.
Hugely. And that actually, I actually feel really great that I was able to...
show her that.
Yeah, and also to have her feel that way in her life. It did bring her a lot of joy, so...
Wonderful.
I feel really good about that.
I'm incredibly excited to be opening my brand spanking new, never looked at before Oppo Find N2 Flip. It's got some beautiful paper it's wrapped in, all very sustainable. I'm unwrapping it. It tells me I've got inspiration ahead, and I believe it. I can tell already it's highly portable. That fold technology, flexion hinge, is amazing. The smoothness of that fold, it's going to fit into the smallest of places. I also know from my little research on this, great battery, great 44-watt super fast charging in fact. So that means all in all, fashion, portable, get me through my day faster. Check them out online at oppo.com/nz. How did your acting start? I couldn't find this on Wikipedia. Here's what I'm going to go with, and you can say yes or no.
Yeah.
West Auckland actually had a pretty good drama school thing going on. Rutherford certainly did. Again, wouldn't have been as good as Rutherford, but would have been all right. So is that how it all started?
Yes, but, excuse me, Waitakere College unequivocally had the best, strongest music and drama department of West Auckland.
Well, Patrice O'Brien, the drama teacher at Ruther's, very good. I was in a school show or two.
Me too.
Yeah. What were you?
I was in Greece.
Right.
Yeah. And what other?
Bit of singing.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Solo.
Oh yeah. I was in the harmony group. Great.
No. It's just. I was trying to see if you'd make the mistake of sing on the mic, but you're not.
No, you're the masked
Yeah.
singer
No.
around here.
Exactly.
Although they asked me to do that season, I was unavailable. I was very impressed that you did it.
Yeah. Well, that said, what annoyed me about that is, the people who won it.
Oh,
They're professional singers. I mean, for F's sake, that is ridiculous. Either you're going to have a show of amateurs where you bring along the Simon Bridgeses of this world and they can compete fairly, but then to throw into it, I mean, Holly Smith, I mean, God.
I couldn't agree more.
Gracious me.
Totally.
That's not right.
Totally.
Wouldn't have, if I'd known that, but I should have watched it before I said yes. And the other thing is song selection. Get the songs right. Anyway, it's not about me. It's about you. So it did start drama at school.
Yeah, and so because my mother was going to send me to law school straight from high school, like that was just what was happening. I had no say in the matter. So I thought, okay, well, during high school, I'm going to do what I enjoy. I'm going to take drama. I'm going to take music because this is what I love. And I really enjoyed doing that in high school. And then knowing that it was going to finish once I got to university. But then, of course, my life completely segued. And I got to continue down the path that I wanted to.
Have you ever played a lawyer?
Oh, not
I feel like that
not
would be
yet.
just a nice little thing.
Oh my gosh, Simon, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
This is why I want to. I haven't played one yet, but I believe that it's going to happen because it would really...
It's fate.
Totally.
We need it. A Kiwi law firm drama would go quite well. I mean, we've got
I agree.
We've got some hospital one. I mean, that's been done everywhere, but,
And cop shows, wherever cop shows.
Henderson Law. Probably it'd be Ponsonby legal or something.
Well,
but knowing you guys,
I-
why is everything you guys film in Grey Lynn? What's wrong with other suburbs in New Zealand?
Well, you're not wrong. The only reason why the things we have made centred in Grey Lynn is because that was where the Pacific community was based when they first migrated.
Yes, at the time of
so
Duck
these
Rockers
stories
and so on
come
that we can
specifically
talk about.
from that, yes.
Yeah.
But this Henderson Law, I have actually spoken about, maybe we should try and put together a
That should
sort
be
of a
quite
law
good because
firm
you could get
show.
some sort of social issues going on there. It'd be quite good.
You could do a cameo.
You could,
you know?
yeah, I could. I'd be,
bring back those Rutherford
I'd be your
High School.
wealthy client, developer,
Love it.
about to take over a protected wetland with a housing estate.
Absolutely. Fantastic.
You take the clients come through. What was your first big break in acting?
Yeah, so obviously it was very difficult to break in because I didn't go to drama school or anything like
Right.
that, but I had all the sort of skills and the things that I had done in high school, and I was quite good at it. So
Yeah.
I had confidence in it, and I just used to go to auditions and even go and be an extra and things like that just to sort of get a bit more on-set experience. Then when I met Oscar, because we met through his playwriting, and I was talking about my acting, and he said, well, why don't you write a play? And he goes, this is what my friends and I have done. We wanted to put on things, so I wrote a play.
Amazing.
And
Was it good?
yeah.
You still look back in it and you say,
Yeah, totally. Well, I've had an offer to develop that into a film.
amazing.
Yeah, and so I wrote that in 2001. And that was the start.
And I might have the order wrong, but my sort of set, well, I think it's probably, if I sort of think first time, not that as I've said in another podcast, and it is true, I've never watched an entire episode of Shortland Street, but you're on Shortland Street. How long were you in that for?
4 years.
Oh, it's a good lag.
It is. It is a good lag.
And I think we should talk Sioni's wedding because it's been so big. I mean, did you expect it to be as big as it was?
Possibly not as big as it was outside of the audience. We knew it was going to.
So you knew it would be a big Pacifica hit?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was given. We really knew that. And it was a surprise, I think, just the general audience reaction to it and how beloved it is. So that was really...
Why do you think that, looking back on it, why do you think it got a bigger audience and it's got this broad appeal? And now it's, it's in the pantheon of, great Kiwi movies.
I think because it just showed Pacific Islanders as New Zealanders.
Yeah.
And that everybody can relate to the characters, even if they're not Pacific Island. They had neighbours like that. We Pacific Islanders are such a big part of this country's fabric.
Yes.
And people just enjoyed seeing what they knew.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, James Griffin and Oscar Kitely, who wrote the script, they're fantastic story writers. Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
so the script was amazing.
I believe it. I see it. That's right. And they're fun to make. I mean, and then it's only two. Whatever. What's that one called? Unfinished Business or something? Right?
Yes, Simon. I'm going to give you an exclusive because I like you.
Yes. There's a 3.
No. Oh. Well, about the experience. So Oscar and I had just split up when we had to film Sione's wedding.
Yes.
That was an experience.
Tension?
Well, I mean, I called him up and I said, okay, let's get together and have coffee. And I said, well, we've got to do this film. You're not my favourite person right now. But for the duration of this film, because this project means so much to us, we're just going to be cool. We're going to be cool on this shoot. We're going to make this film. It's so important. We've worked on it for so long to get it to this point that it's actually being made. And that's how we became friends again.
Right. You didn't. There wasn't any sort of heart flutter moments there?
No.
You're going to cross him and...
Never, because the reason we split up... Yeah.
Okay, all right. No, that's okay. It's a family show.
Yeah.
Now, he just think about him on Sione's wedding. He's sort of this, not exactly nerdy, but he's sort of the good, nice boy, well, not boy, but character. He's got the office job and all that. I don't know. I feel like maybe it's just because he's a very good actor and he does it well. I feel like, is that sort of who he is?
Oh, definitely.
He's a sort of goody two-shoes and a little bit earnest.
Yeah. But he's also a bit of a dark horse too. So,
right.
So, yeah.
We're all capable of that at times.
Absolutely. No, he's very smart.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons Oscar and I, get on so well is when we met, we were as odd as each other in terms of being Pacific. People from West Auckland, he was a nerd, I was a nerd. He wanted to write things for about our people. I wanted to do the same. And it was just, very much, we got a lot in common and he very much is that person.
I think, a really top actor, you've got to be a bit cerebral and thoughtful and, and all of that stuff. Duck Rockers, of course, is, as I've said already, the prequels, TV, watching it with my 10 and 8-year-old. We're having some good laughs, really enjoying it. You are a co-writer and a co-producer in that. How do you find that sort of being on stage and behind the stage?
Loving it. It's such a great evolution for me in terms of my career. I was always going to go into either directing, always writing, but I always thought, yes, directing, producing, whichever one comes along first, and producing did. And it really fits me. I like being in charge.
Yeah, yes, exactly. I don't get that sense from you at all. No, I just sort of do. It comes from your mother. That sounds a bit, I don't know if I'm allowed to say it. Hey, and I already said it was good fun to watch it, but actually if we think about the Sione's wedding sort of whānau of production, there's a serious side to it, and I suppose I'm not, without being pretentious about it, give me a sense of what do you think the significance of those works is, or are?
Yeah,
it's better English as my mother would.
Yeah,
are not is anyway.
We haven't had a lot of Pacific stories just told in a mainstream, platform. I've always had the intention that because we are just, as I said before, we're just part of the fabric of this country. So we should be reflected in that exact same way. I don't believe in us being niche. I don't believe in the things we make needing to be niche for a niche audience. And Sione's wedding was a great example of that. We can't develop Pacific talent without Pacific projects for young people. So these stories are really important for what they are in terms of opportunity, but also what they're about in terms of, you know, just acknowledging our place here in this society.
Mainstreamed a really big part of
Huge.
our culture and country. That said, do you feel, and I'm not taking away from you the respect and, you know, where you've got to, are you ever typecast as an ethnic actor?
I think in the beginning, yes, because there were very few opportunities as a Pacific actor to even be in projects. And when I first started out, I couldn't even audition for roles unless they had specified that it was an ethnic role. So, you know, that was very difficult.
Yes.
And so when Pacific characters first started turning up, they were quite stereotypical. But I think now, and this is why we want to come into roles of writing and producing, because we want to reflect the diversity within the diversity.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's exactly right. How do you prepare for an acting role?
Oh, yeah, well, because acting for me is telling stories and observing behaviour in people, and I've done this my whole life since the takeaway shop, I'm a very keen observer of behaviour and understanding. So every time I'm given a role, I just have this innate ability to completely understand who that person is, where they're coming from, and emulating that. So it's just something that I have, but I also find every character I play really fascinating, because people are fascinating, no matter who they are. Every single person is fascinating.
Definitely.
And every single person has a reason for why they are. This is why I understand everybody, even people I disagree with, because you understand, well, you're just a sum of your experiences.
Yes.
And, you know, in your environment. So I think it's such a great way to live life, like being, you know, portraying other people, because that can only come from a place of understanding. You can't judge anybody you play, and I don't judge anybody in life. And I think that's why this career really works for me.
So what you're saying as well, though, is, you know, I think with artists, you know, with novelists or, you know, musicians or, you know, some really struggle, you know, it's just a constant effort and they produce one masterpiece and that's it. And there's some people it's kind of, it's what they are, and it's effortless might be, but it's effortless. And you're in that latter category at a level. You feel it, you do it.
Totally.
And are you better actor today? I mean, I presume you are, but are you a significantly evolved, better actor today than you were 20 years ago?
Absolutely. And every single time I get better. Every single time. You know, and you know, they say you're only as good as your last project, and it's true, because then the next time it's different, and the next time, you know, and you continue to grow. You continue to grow. I did a role last year, and I was so sad my mum didn't get me to get to see this film, but I played the Queen in a Netflix movie called The Royal Treatment.
Yes.
And that was my favourite role to date. And taking that on, and it was like, wow, I could have really been a queen in my life.
I see it. I can see it.
This really suits me. But, you know...
Is there royalty in that Samoan line?
Yeah. Well...
Nobility.
Yeah. It's not royalty as such, but high chiefdom. Yeah, my mother's a high chief, yeah.
Hey, I don't want to talk in substance about that incident, but prior to Duck Rockers, look, I think I'm right to say you had 4 years kind of you know, it's probably the word a royal would use, self-imposed exile, right?
Yes,
and you were kind of, because, you know, you've been through a hard go there, and that was a result, you know, of a video that went viral and was mainstream media furore and all this stuff that you know only too well. I suppose the question is, how do you reflect on what that on that now? What's it mean to you now? Or is it kind of like, nah, it means nothing? Or
Oh, no. I mean, it was a significant experience to go through. I'm
You
grateful. Yeah, I'm grateful. Very few people will sort of ever understand what that is like. It's a very exclusive club. But I'm so grateful for the experience, as negative and soul-destroying as it was at times. And, it broke my heart. But I am better for having enjoyed it. I've learnt a lot. And
because why? Because what? It makes you a better person, a stronger person?
Stronger. Not better person, stronger. Just stronger to withstand things that you didn't think you could. So the self-imposed exile came from public life because of the fact that there was just too much negativity out in that space, whereas my inner life is very positive and, I try to keep it very loving and calm. And I just wanted a break from all the noise. But when it came to come back out, having had that sort of rest from it all, I was like, yeah, now I can do it. Now I can do it. Now I'm ready for it, because I actually needed time to process that whole thing without still being out there.
And I'm not suggesting any level you did anything wrong.
Thank you.
If I think about myself and some of these, for my story, stupid things I've done, I often think, well, I don't want that to be the last story that people read when they Google and Wikipedia me, right? So whatever, I'm keeping going, and I'm writing the next chapter and the chapter after that.
Absolutely.
Was that there for you? Yeah.
Oh, well, it was never going to be the end of me, and it
No.
was never going to be the end of my career.
Yeah.
It was just this crazy thing that happened. But then I also believe things happen for a reason, obviously. If you don't do certain things can't happen.
Yeah.
But
A lot of people do these things, though, but without...
Well, it's and that's it. And I also, Simon, was given a really awesome opportunity, though, to really actually stand up for what I believe in about women and in that space. And I know that a lot of women were affected really positively by the way that I was able to just go, well, what I did technically was okay. How you're all reacting is not okay.
Yeah.
And I still believe that to this day.
Totally right. What does it say about what does it mean about our society?
Well, you know what it is. It's just a bit of leftover misogyny. It's a little bit of, women have
And
always...
you say that, let's be clear here, is that because you were treated
Differently.
Yes. To Conrad?
Yes. But I believe that women are, just as a rule. I
think it's...
forever.
I think this is not opinion, that's a fact, isn't it?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So it was just the way things happen, but I think because it happened to me at the age and the stage and the time in the world, I was able to react or respond very differently as a woman, as opposed to this happening to a woman even 5-10 years ago. Wouldn't have been... I don't believe women had the support and understanding and opportunity to stand up and say, well, actually, this kind of thing's okay. It was just the timing that it was I was able to stand up and really represent for something I truly, truly believe in.
Fantastic. I really appreciate you
speaking
with me about that. What's going on in your life today?
Oh, well...
not everything. I don't need to know what you have for breakfast. You can just hit the high points if you like.
Yeah. pretty standard middle-aged stuff. Just about finished renovating my house, which was
amazing.
Hell through a pandemic.
Give me a visual picture of this. Is it beautiful? Is it comfortable? What sort of...
Yes, it's very modern. It's a townhouse. I kept it very sleek and minimal in terms of what I did within it, because I'm a huge collector of art and all my furniture is really loud.
Wonderful.
So it's like an art gallery.
Identifies with that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Got some small dogs because my son is 30.
You got like 3.
Yeah.
Well, I'm stalking you, but that's out there as well. What are their names?
Excuse me. Missy, Mellow, and Coco.
Missy, Mellow, Coco.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
They little dogs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Breed.
I'm a cliche now. I'm like a middle-aged woman living in a gentrified area with small dogs and a successful career in a freaking Jeep.
Wow, don't knock it till you've tried it, right?
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Work projects?
Totally. So we're on a hiatus right now from Duck Rockers, which has been really good. And I'm going to use this time to develop, I've got a script that I've got to deliver for my film development. So this gives me a bit of space to do that, which I'm really looking forward to.
I mean, without giving the game away, when you script, are we talking desert island love story, plane crash, hospital drama? I mean, what's our basic sort of? I had a really good one today, actually. What was it? I was thinking about myself. Sometimes I think I could write a novel when I.
You should.
But anyway, it's not about me. Generally speaking, what is this?
Okay, so yes, this is actually the film based on my play that I wrote in 2001. And what I like about it, it's called Island Girls. What I like about it, it's with the Sionis movies and even with Duck Rockers, they were very focused on the males. And I think it's about time we had something that was completely just about the women.
Yeah.
And I'm so that woman to do this project.
Do you think that's actually a thing as well? Possibly, be careful how I say this, but with minority ethnicities, it can be all about the men. I suppose it's not just minority, but I suppose that's true in Pākehā.
Truly.
Broadcasting as well, but
absolutely. But I do think, yes, I mean, would it be fair to say that our culture is male dominated? Yeah, and the stories that have come from it up until this point, male dominated, which isn't a bad thing. But we just need to balance it up a bit.
Yeah. Am I right that there's possibly a memoir in you?
Yes.
Is this a halfway through, fifth way through.
Yeah, well, it keeps
growing.
It does. And this is the thing, I started it actually a long time ago. And then for me, it's about timing. And then I realised, actually, this isn't probably the point that we stop and look back. I think the story is still going. And I will release it one day at the point in the time where I believe that for this part of my life, I've learned all the lessons, I've done all the things that I can, I'm now qualified to look back on. Even in saying the 4-year self-imposed break I took from public life, that helped me a lot. And I'm glad I didn't put it out before that, because I learned a lot about what it is I'm saying about this, so it'll come. And maybe I have to sort of wait till some people aren't around and things like that, just to,
Yeah, I know that feeling too. Yeah, that's right. My book on politics has to wait for many people to be in that category. Mm-hmm. So that's exactly. Well, look, judging on this conversation, the memoir is going to be a cracker, and I just wish you all the best with this. I'm going to wrap up by asking you some questions. We call them general knowledge that I ask every guest.
Okay.
What single object would you save from your house?
I have a box of journals that I've kept since I was 13.
Amazing.
It's a Mormon thing.
Every so often you read back on those young ones?
Mm-hmm.
What do you make of them now?
That I haven't changed that much. I've grown a lot and experienced a lot, but I'm fundamentally the same person that wrote in my 13-year-old, entries. Yeah. Truly, yeah.
I have a diary from about the age of 13. The entries aren't that exciting. It's sort of like, went for a bike ride round to Orlo's place, watched Ghostbusters 2. It was good.
That is fantastic.
What's the best night out you've ever had?
Oh, my Lord, Simon.
That you can tell us about.
I can't tell you about any of them. I've had some fantastic nights. This is why I need to do the memoir, because it's like, did that just happen? Wow. And I'd like to think that I haven't had my best night out yet.
No.
Yeah, but I've had some, oh my gosh,
you met
some doozies.
Speaking of generally famous, I mean, you met some famous actors. We're talking world famous.
Yeah, it's crazy, but this kind of thing always happens to me. It's so weird. I'll just go out somewhere and then suddenly it's like something else, and then, wow, we're with Snoop Dogg. Wow. Amazing. Okay, cool. Things like that. I went to a dinner once and met Bobby Kennedy Jr., and then he invited me out to go fishing the next day and spent the day on the boat with the Secret Service learning how to fish. Things like that. It's just crazy. Just
Amazing.
all the time. There's so many more like that. Most of them I cannot tell you ever.
Put them in the book. Who would you most like to be trapped in a lift with?
Oh, easy. Jason Momoa.
Oh, amazing.
And he's here, right? He's here soon.
Have you met him?
No. I'd love to.
But in that lift?
Oh, my goodness. I mean, who else would you possibly want to be in a lift?
I mean, it's sort of not on my wish list.
Right,
Like, you know, that's okay. If you could be any animal, what would it be and why?
Oh, okay. So I'm the year of the tiger. That's why I wear my Bourunga tiger ring. It's
I love
beautiful.
that.
Thank you. So I would definitely want to be a tiger. However, because of deforestation and, you know, poachers and all the dangers surrounding tigers and they're, you know, just about extinct, I would have to be a tiger owned by a multimillionaire or a billionaire. So maybe a tiger owned by Jason Momoa. How about that?
Yeah, the mind boggles. I mean, it's a family show, so I'm not going to ask you any of those questions. But hey, it's just been so good to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Teuila Blakely. You've been listening to Generally Famous. There's a new episode every Wednesday. You can listen to them all at stuff.co.nz/generallyfamous or wherever you get your podcasts. If you follow us on Apple or Spotify, any of the podcast apps, in fact, you'll get the latest episode automatically. I'd love to hear from you. Send your feedback to generallyfamous@stuff.co.nz. Thanks to my producers, Chris Reed and Jen Black. I'm Simon Bridges. I really appreciate you listening. Generally Famous was proudly brought to you by Oppo's first flip phone, the Find N2 Flip. Generally famous for looking great and folding small to fit anywhere.
The Oppo Find N2 Flip looks strikingly flawless. No bumps, no interruptions, no compromises. Creating the perfect flat screen folding phone wasn't easy, and at Oppo we challenged ourselves constantly. Can we make it lighter, more durable, more usable but with a battery that can last all day? Like a flagship smartphone with an innovative foldable experience. The answer to everything had to be yes. The Oppo Find N2 Flip smartphone. For a sneak preview, go to oppo.com/nz.